gathering like this at any time, but particularly in Ramadan is, and if everybody can move in, like let's just make as much room as possible. I honestly thought maybe 20 people would be here, so this is amazing to see. Love that the center is really bringing people in, but let's just make room in, so if everybody can move, inshallah ta'ala. Move in. I think the mic died. You guys will check it. Is it working? It's not working, right? Kind of, a little bit. Okay, I'll keep it until they get the other mic. So I honestly thought there would be 20 people here, so I didn't expect a lot of people to be here, but I want to be honest with y'all. I honestly think Gaza's woken up the ummah in a way that it's not been awake in a long time. So I'm very, very humbled to be here. I think all of us should take like 2-3 seconds to renew our intentions. It's not just an important time for the ummah, it's an important time for us individually in Ramadan. It's the most blessed time of the year. It's the most important time to seek Allah's mercy. It's the best time. Ramadan is the best version of yourself you will ever be throughout the year. The best you all year is right now. And every day forward in Ramadan is a better you. Unfortunately, when Ramadan leaves, there's a fall off, but that's okay. But right now, we're the best version of ourselves. So it's important to just take a moment to reset your intentions, renew your intentions before we begin, inshallah. I'll do the same. All right, bismillah. A lot of things I want to kind of talk about and get to today, given, of course, love the theme of victors, not victims. Given the theme that I was given of talking about sacred knowledge and how it guides our activism. So there's a lot of really nice words. I think there's like 4 key concepts I'm going to try to talk about. And I think all of them intertwine with how the Muslim ummah becomes victorious again. Because victory is not, it's not a destination, it's a process, right? It's all about what we do as individuals and what we do as a community to get to where we want to go. And I think the threshold of where we want to go is so low. Like if we can see 15,000 kids get killed, 17,000 kids get orphaned, 40,000 innocent Palestinians destroyed, 80% of Gaza annihilated. If we can see a genocide in 5G live streamed by the people that it's being committed to for the first time in history, and the ummah can't do anything, that's why everybody's in this room. That's why I'm here. Because something needs to drastically change. Something needs to shift. And that shift, inshallah, in my opinion, that path to victory, I think there's 4 things that I'm going to try to talk about that Allah Azza wa Jalla and the Prophet ﷺ tell us about what is true victory in this life. And of course, in the next life. So the first story, and it ties very strongly to the story of why Ramadan is important. It ties to the story of why we're here in a special night and a special time. And that story actually starts with the beginning of creation. If you go back to the origin of the reason, if you always go back to the why something happens, it's much easier to figure out everything else that comes after it. The how, the what, the why, the where, the when. If we understand really well the why, it died again, but it's okay. If we understand the why did Allah create humans? Why did He create us? The story is very clear in the first chapter of the Quran. Allah Azza wa Jal begins somewhere early on in Surah Al-Baqarah. He makes it very clear why humans were created. And it's honestly not what we normally would say, because what's the normal answer of why humans were created? Like as a Muslim, what's your first thought? Why were you created? Everybody says to worship Allah, right? That's the first thing. Every single person says to worship Allah, which is of course it's true. We were not created for any other purpose. But Allah didn't say that's the purpose. See, Allah had another intention of why He created human beings. And maybe that's a part of the path of victory, if you will. Allah Azza wa Jalla, in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, He says, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ. When Allah decided to give a detailed plan to the only great creation at the time, the most perfect worshippers of Allah. They were the angels. No one worships Allah better than the angels because they do it all the time, relentlessly, non-stop. So they're the best worshippers of Allah. Allah goes to the best worshippers and He says, إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ fil ardi khalifa. We've all kind of heard this verse. I talk about this verse a lot. But it's really important to set the stage. I have decided to initiate a project on earth called what? A khalifa. Step one of to understanding victory is understanding that we are khulafa. Step number one. Allah didn't create, Allah could have said, Inni ja'alun fil ard abdan. Allah could have said what we all said, right? I'm here to worship Allah. But Allah didn't say He wants your worship. What did Allah say He wants us to be before He even created us? What's the job description? Khalifa is an important word. We got to unpack the word a little bit. What is the word on this side? Because usually the sisters can't be khulafa, right? Al-khilafa, good. So it means al-khilafa, but what does that actually mean? What does the word khalifa mean? It could, very good. There's a few root definitions of it. And of course, I'm not an Arabic expert. Y'all could talk to the Arabic experts about it. But a few kind of like things that I unpacked and learned that scholars talked about. One of them is this succession. فَخَلَفَ مِن بَعْدِهِمْ خَلْفٌ. That human beings, our job in life is to make sure we continue. Right? Your DNA continues. Your prodigy continue. So there's an inherent part, particularly you get older. I'm not that old, but you get older like me. You start realizing, man, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately because of all the death that we've seen. Like, what is life and when is death? And what does my death actually mean when it happens? Will it make any impact on anything? And then I asked myself, like, okay, I'm 36. I'm going to be 40 soon. I only got until 60. I'm not going to be like Biden, barely being a mummy walking around trying to fake it to make it, right? And no shade, no stereotypes of old Arab or old Muslims, but we wither away, right? Most of the time when we get old, right? There's no strong, and this is something to think about when it comes to victory. Like an 80-year-old can be president, we wither away by 60. There actually needs to be a shift of mindset of what strength is, but that's a side conversation. Like, I'm just going to die. And what does my life actually mean? What does every moment of my life, what does it mean? Okay, I'm here. Like, I hope I see my grandkids. I hope that they're good. I hope that, I could get by with my kids. Like, that's my only hopes. I hope I leave them some money. I hope I could get them through college. Like, what are my intentions? Like, life goes by so fast when the purpose isn't clear. Allah says, yeah, we were made to make sure that offspring continue, but there's another meaning of khalifa. It's an important meaning. What's the other meaning? Anybody know? Leader is a good definition. Imam Razi says, as-sultan ala al-ard. The governor over the earth. Allah says, I only created human beings to be what? Men and women. To do what? To be governors over the earth. To be a governor. We don't walk around like we're governors. We walk around most of the time like we're peasants. Like I'm just trying to get by. Let me just try to get by. The framing Allah Azza wa Jal had for Adam is that he is inni ja'alun fil ardi khalifa. That's the first thing. The angels, which are, subhanAllah, again, sometimes I read Quran and I think it's come to life in a different way this year. But it's like, man, you when you dig deep into think about it and you have like this deep reflection on Quran, it's really next level jaw-dropping. The angels are so wise, they said, Ya Allah, we've done the free-willed creature on earth thing, and that project didn't work, it was jinn. And all they did was, eventually all humans become so selfish that Allah, as the angel said, أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَن يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا. Do you want to put on earth something that will spread so much evil? There'll be evil, they'll spread evil, and then that evil will cause وَيَسْفِقُ الدِّمَاء. And they will spread so much blood on earth. Like the inherent nature of humans, when it's not godly, is that we become beastly, animals, right? Allah makes that analogy all the time. If you're not a khalifa, you're a kharoof, if you're for the Arabi people, right? If you're not aspiring to be what God created you to be, you naturally become the apes that we didn't evolve from, but everybody says it, so it actually becomes the default truth. You understand? So and what that does is that we just kill each other. We just see death and destruction, and it doesn't mean anything. So Allah Azza wa Jalla tells us to make this shift. Number one, has to be a clear reason of why you're here. The job description that you put on your LinkedIn profile is Khalifa. That's what Allah told us. That's the role that Allah wants us to play. And that's, subhanAllah, it's a very profound shift. And I'll tell you why. Because I think sometimes as Muslims what does this mean that I am becoming a Khalifa? So what is that? What is Allah telling me? He's telling me that I am responsible for everything that happens to me and around me. Let me say it again. You are responsible to everything that happens to you and around you. Like everything that you can influence and control, you are directly responsible to govern that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So the first generation of Muslims, when they understood this mindset that, hey, we're supposed to be a Khalifa, they did certain things with that. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But the Khalifa, if you will, like when Allah created Adam, this is like the physical hardware. If you ever, I do silly, stupid analogies sometimes, so bear with me, all right? So if you can imagine, like, you have this amazing device, there's a hardware that's phenomenal, and there's a software that's phenomenal, right? The hardware is the chips, the gadgets, and the screen, the glass, all the minerals. But then it actually does something with the software. Hardware by itself is not good enough. So when Allah Azza wa Jalla created Adam, and of course Adam was, the whole story, I won't go through all the details. Allah created Adam. Adam, alayhi salam, automatically all the angels prostrated to him because he's not just the abd. The angels are abd. He is a abd that's a khalifa. Big difference. So all the angels bowed their heads to him. When Allah Azza wa Jalla took Adam and put him on earth, there was something that happened, which is interestingly tied to the Quran really quickly. This is how it ties to the Quran. Adam alayhi salam, he was in Jannah, guys. And I talked about this last Ramadan, if you guys remember. Like we talked about greed, and we talked about how Adam alayhi salam, like he walked by 1 billion trees to eat from one tree he wasn't supposed to. Him and Hawa, right? If you remember that story, go back to Facebook or go back to, I don't know where, I guess thrown up now. TikTok is going to be banned, it's not there. So wherever it is, go back to the recording. You'll get the funny analogy I make about Adam and Hawa and Eve. But at the end of that, Adam and Eve, they ate from a fruit, a plant. They ate something from a tree that they weren't supposed to. And of course, what did Allah do? They were in Jannah, and what did Allah do? Allah banished, good, very good. Who said that? Allah banished them to earth. That's the terminology. Allah punished them by sending them on earth. But I just told you before Allah created Adam, He said, I will put on earth Khalifa. Wasn't the plan that he'd always go to earth? So was he banished? No. The plan was he would go. Me and you were meant to be here. Like we're here. Every atom in our existence is here because Allah wanted it to be here. So we're not banished. Again, reframing the mindset a little bit. We're here because Allah wants us to be here because we are the khulafa at this moment. So I will send to earth. Yes, the process had to happen where he had to make a mistake and he had to get sent down to earth. But once the Khalifa gets sent down to earth, so Allah decided to send him to earth, the Khalifa's on the earth, Allah needed to send something down with the Khalifa. The Khalifa would be like the hardware is incomplete without the supreme software that's needed. What's the supreme software? Allah Azza wa Jalla says, فَإِمَّا يَأْتِيَنَّكُم مِّنِّي هُدًى. O humans, when you go down to earth, I planned for you to be there. I want you to be there. You're going to be the governors of this earth when I send you there. And there's one condition. There's one caveat. What makes the, silly analogy? Again, corny jokes, just laugh. But why am I the kharuf or the khalifa? Like, what's the difference? Well, it's the software that's needed. The software is فَإِمَّا يَأْتِيَنَّكُم مِّنِّي هُدًى فَمَنْ تَبِعَ هُدَايَ فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. When I send down, the Khalifa comes down to earth, something else has got to come down with it. It's the guidance. It's God's rules of how to be the most phenomenal Khalifas on earth. Allah has to send the software that would make the person become transformative. I know Transformers is some sick car fanatics shit movies, but it's actually the job description, in my opinion, of Khalifa. My translation of Khalifa is transformer. If you want to ask me, I know no offense to the classical Arabic scriptures and scholars. It's the transformer. It's the governor with the guidance that transforms the earth. That's the main job description. Not the electrical engineer, not that I got 5 degrees or I got no degrees or I'm a business person or I'm just on Facebook to run funnels or ads or something, right? It's like, no, that's the job description. It's very clear. Guidance, the governor with the guidance becomes transformative. Interesting tie to Ramadan, right? I'm like, why am I saying this and what's the point of it? How does it tie to Ramadan? Ramadan is the month where both of them come together. So Allah says, Shahr Ramadan. Ramadan is the month where you get, as a Khalifa, a crash course on the final miraculous guidance. What is that course? What is the course? What's special about Ramadan? It's not because poor people are hungry, right? I mean, I like the poor people that are hungry, but what about the hungry people in Gaza? Why should they fast? What are they getting out of it? They're the poor people. The message of Ramadan is we don't fast for feeling what poor people feel. We fast because the Quran is the most phenomenal miracle ever given to humanity. Another reshaping that's needed. It's the most phenomenal book ever compilated on the face of the globe from the past to the future. There has to be like a deep appreciation to it. Allah says, I sent Ramadan. In Ramadan, I sent the Quran as guidance for the Khalifa. I'm putting that in. So whoever of you, when you get that guidance, don't do what Adam did and get why do we fast? So why fast? Well, Adam left Jannah. He was removed from Jannah because he ate and he shouldn't have ate. So Allah naturally says, look on earth, Adam, or sons of Adam, when I reintroduce you to your main purpose of existence, hey, you're not allowed to eat. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Fast. Because that'll make sure, it's like a deeper meaning. Look, there's layers to the Quran. The deep meaning is, dude, dunya will never fill the purpose that you're looking for. So stop eating, stop drinking, stop thinking about the opposite sex, and just focus on the purpose because you're a Khalifa, you're a governor, and I'm going to reintroduce you to the guidance. That's what Ramadan's about. Simple, is clear. Next time you're debating, for those in college, I used to love debating with professors in college, right? I used to love it. I went to St. John's. I took like 6 theology classes just to debate. Any St. John's people in here? Shout out to St. John's. Too expensive. Don't go there. But I think if we don't bring the mission statement to the world, everybody, hey, we're the ones, when we're being killed like animals, it's our fault. Again, the governor is responsible for themselves and everything they're in control of. So I'm going to spread this message and this mission to everybody, right? That's centering that mindset. So the purpose is clear. Ramadan, again, Ramadan being like a little piece of it, but the purpose is clear. إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. That mindset of governor and guidance, I think is important. What that became, not just to me and you, forget about me and you, we're punks. Not with all due respect to the sisters. We're punks. What the original generation did with that message was they understood, hey, we're transformers. We're not here to just be abd. I'm not here to just like, hey, I'm just trying to live my life, just trying to hustle, just trying to get by, just trying to watch all these entrepreneurial. I love the rich white man on TikTok that tells me life is, live your own life, live your dreams. I get a lot of those in my algo. I don't know if anybody else has those, right? The fake bravado of some white man telling you how you should be successful and be set up with all the great things in this world. And if you just buy his course, your life will change. You guys know that story? Okay. Yeah. You know that nonsense? If you think about the way the early Muslims understood the Quran and this message, governor and guidance, they said to themselves, we're here to be victors. We're here to transform. And actually, subhanAllah, when they took the message, if you think about it, and I'll do this really quickly. I can do this really quickly because second lesson I want to get. So number one lesson is really understand why we're here. Second, really quickly. Once you truly understand why we're here, the framing that Allah Azza wa Jalla gives us, like this transformative message, it becomes a historic moment in time. It becomes historic. Because the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they weren't educated like me and you. As a matter of fact, if you think about the time that the quick history lesson. You had Persians and Romans that were the two superpowers of the earth. They pretty much controlled the entire globe. If you wanted to send a final messenger, I would think, and you wanted him to be the prophet for the rest of time, wouldn't you send him to a very powerful elite family? Because then, from that position of power, the message could disseminate across the world. It would make sense to me. The last place I would think is not any of the superpowers, not the African empires, not the Roman, not the Persian, not even the Chinese that were fairly powerful. He sent it, Allah decided to send the final message to a man in the middle of a desert, in the middle of a mountain, that couldn't even read and write, and he was given the best book ever. Like, it's as if Allah's like, look, I'm going to make this as hard, as like a miracle, like I'm going to make it as humanly hard as possible so that it can be just truly as miraculous as the world has ever seen. I'm going to send it to a man who didn't know how to write the greatest book ever. And Allah, when Allah did that, when Allah sent it to the Prophet ﷺ in the middle, of course in Ramadan, right? The theme of Ramadan. When Allah did that, it's interesting what happened. The Prophet ﷺ for 13 years, he couldn't break through with his town. Then he had to leave. For the first 5 years, there was endless war for him just to live, just for the Muslims to exist. Endless wars. After the 5th year, they had a little bit of a truce, a peace agreement. That lasted for about 2 years. And then the Prophet ﷺ goes to Hajjatul Wada. Interesting what happened. The Prophet went from making hijrah with about 120 companions to making Hajj with over 100,000. So Islam, what did Islam do? What is 100 to 100,000 for the great mathematicians in the room? If there are any. What is that multiplication effect? How much? 100-fold? Times 1,000. Yes? Is that correct? Just add the O's, guys. I think there's a math teacher in here. I think I see my daughter's math teacher in here. So it's like, yeah, just add the zeros at the very end. So what happens is, Islam goes from 100 to 100,000. You would think, man, it's all good. Everything is great, right? As soon as the Prophet ﷺ dies, everybody leaves Islam. Other than 3 cities. Mecca, which had been fighting him for 23 years, 22 years until his death, right? The year and a half before his death. Ta'if, which had been fighting the Prophet more than Mecca even. And the only city that remained was where? Medina. So Islam went from 100,000 spreading across Arabia back down to 1 city. 1 city. This is the 10th year, the first year the Prophet died. I'm not even going to go through the whole history. But from that moment where Abu Bakr came to power, and it's only 1 city, Islam in 100 years got to the end of Africa from that moment. From that moment, Islam in about 90 years, less than 100 years. It went from 1 city in Medina to spreading from the tip of Africa all the way to India in 90 years. So historians kind of read the growth of civilizations, And they say, the Romans took thousands of years. They take hundreds of years to elevate to power. The Persians, they ruled for a long time, but it takes hundreds of years. Like any country would take, even the United States of America, took about 100 to 200 years before it got to its peak. The Muslim generation took Islam in 90 years from one city, Medina, to every city, from the tip of Africa, Mauritania, anybody from Mauritania? From the tips of Mauritania all the way to the outskirts of India in 90 years. It wasn't because they thought, it wasn't, by the way, did they have drones and quadcopters and nuclear bombs? No. Did they have vast technology and this amazing education system? No. Did they have this wealth of economy and they came up with some new invention like the printing press or something that revolutionized the day? No. All they had was, what was all they had? All they had was the Quran. All they had was the mindset that we are governors and we have guidance. That's all they had. And interestingly enough, the historians say the greatest miracle of the Prophet ﷺ is that the Quran was sent to him, and those people were كانوا يرعوا إبل وغنم. They were shepherds of sheep and camel. We would consider that maybe today like, the people that work at the back of the store, back of any store, restaurant, deli, people that work at the back of the store. They'd be like, man, that's the easiest, that's whatever, no education, nothing needed, just like you're just there. The people that work at the back of the store, they were like the shepherds back in the day, just living their life. And then they came, the scholar says, then they became Sadatul Shu'ub al-Umam. They became the governors and the leaders of the world. Simply because of what? They understood purpose, and they understood that there's guidance that transforms them. That mindset by itself allowed the Muslim community to be khayra umma ukhrijat linnas. That's why Allah said, you're the best people to ever come out to lead people. You're the best generation. You're the best leaders ever. You're the best ummah ever. Simply because this mindset, this belief, is what brought them to that height. And interestingly enough, the Muslim civilization from that one city in Medina, it didn't just go across the globe. It lasted for over 400 years. 1,400 years. 1,400 years. It kept that might, of course, ups and downs, but the civilization withheld its identity and was able to be the juggernaut on earth for about 1,400 years. What did the decline happen? That's my third part of the story. Why was there a decline? So understanding purpose gets us to the starting point of victory. Understanding this unbelievable, miraculous growth, this early generation, what they did with that growth. When they understood the Quran is transformative, they're transformers. They took it, they spread this over the globe, they became the juggernauts of the earth. How did we get to rock bottom? By the way, I think most people say, as far as I've heard, rock bottom for the Muslim ummah was when the Khilafah ended. Anybody heard that before? Which was with the fall of the Ottomans around 1915, 1960, right? Really, World War I is when the Khilafah ended. Anybody heard that before? And I actually don't think that's the bottom. I think the bottom is, I'm not a historian, but it's close to the bottom. Maybe it's not the bottom, but we're still close to the bottom. The reality of an ummah, of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of these unbelievable transformers. By the way, we're not 100,000 anymore. We're not one city or 100,000, right? We're what? 2 billion. 2 billion around the world. From Indonesia all the way to Chile, you will find Muslims. 2 billion. I think rock bottom is when 2 billion see a genocide happening to their people, them starving, them slaughtered, them destroyed, houses, homes, 15,000 children annihilated, and then we can barely get a cup of water in for people to drink. I actually think this is close to rock bottom. Like, what else? So where else was there Raqaba? When else did the Ummah have genocide in this fashion? And obviously there's been massacres in the Ummah before, but that it's live streamed to 2 billion Muslims. That's never happened before. Like, people used to hear about the massacres of the Crusaders. Like, they used to slaughter Muslims. And Muslims just used to hear the stories of it, right? They never saw it. You never saw it. Even until, subhanAllah, I was listening as I was coming here. You know, similar slaughter happened to the Palestinians, 1982. By the way, really important. I've spent the past 6 months just knowing who I am. The best thing to strip away from you is to know who you are. You know, you're just chasing, looking like The Rock. And you're chasing trying to be like Grant Cardone. And you're chasing just like have the influence of, who's the famous Twitch streamer? There's a famous Twitch streamer that my daughter was teaching me about. I guess he's got like millions of views every time he logs on. I was like, maybe that's him. Yeah, there you go. Maybe that's him. So it's like, hey, who am I trying to be like? What am I trying? Like, what is my? And I'm be respectful to the sisters. No, I'm not giving any kind of Kim Kardashian, analogies or anything like that. I don't know whatever. But I was like, I don't know. I don't know what. I'll reset. I was trying to be funny. My bad. I failed. It's all right. It's all right. It's funny that it wasn't funny. If they strip who you are, if you don't know who you are, and you spend all your time trying to be somebody you're not, it's the best thing. I'm saying that like as a Palestinian. About 6 months ago, man, I didn't know. What happened in 1948? Why did we fight it? What happened in 1967? Wait, what happened in 73? Wait, Egyptians lost the Sinai and they got it back? Wait, they actually gave it back because they sold out? Wait, what happened in 82? And then, 82 was the point I was trying to get to. Why did 15,000 Palestinians and Lebanese get slaughtered? Very similar to today, but obviously today's 10 times, 2 times worse, at least right now. How did 15,000 people get slaughtered in 1982 and nobody did anything? It's like, when you don't know any of your history, you don't know who you are, where you came from, where you existed, who your true identity is. Everything is just like, I am just aspiring to be like this phenomenal white person. Most of our life in the post-colonial, in the colonial context is we're aspiring to be like some amazing white billionaire or some amazing white chick. Like that has become the framing of not just the Muslims in the West, by the way, but also the Muslims in the East. It's a completely colonized mindset. They didn't just colonize our lands. They colonized our identities. They colonized our minds. They colonized who we think we are and who we think we should be. That's the easiest way to control people. You feel me? So when you re-understand your identity, it's like, man, a genocide in 5Gs never happened to the Ummah Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So in my opinion, I think we've hit rock bottom. Because an Ummah that can't mobilize to the greatest massacre ever happened to it, it should realize something needs to change. A paradigm shift needs to happen. The axis of power needs to move. I'm saying big words. I hope I'm not scaring anybody. I'll talk about how it's practical, but the idea is that a shift needs to happen. The decline, what's the decline really quickly? The Prophet talked to us about the decline. He gave it very straightforward to us. Very famous hadith in Bukhari. The Prophet he said, and I'll engage you guys after this hadith. Okay, maybe I'll ask, what is the one hadith that told the Muslim community that they would be many and they would see slaughter and they can't do anything? Anybody know the hadith? On the sister's side. Did the Prophet prophesy this time? Did he tell us it would come? He did. What's the hadith? Yes. Very good. The Prophet was sitting like in a halaqah like this. Imagine. Just rewind 1400 and some years ago. He's sitting with the companions. He used to talk to them all the time. He used to give them visions of the future. One day he sat down and he said, a day will come where nations will come together and they will invite each other to your slaughter like they invite each other to dinner. Like, you know how you invite people to iftar and everybody sits and eats? It's exactly the same process. They'll just invite each other to sit and eat dinner. That's how easy it will be. They said, the companions, by the way, subhanAllah, they didn't have a victim mindset. Ya Rasulullah, why doesn't Allah help us? Ya Rasulullah, why? It wasn't a victim mindset. The companions said, Ya Rasulullah, would we be so little in number on that day that there's so few of us that they would just slaughter us and nobody can do anything? The Prophet ﷺ told them, Kalla, no. You will be kathir. You will be many. And the analogy the Prophet said, he said, if you imagine the foam on a shoreline when the tide comes on the shore and you just see the foam of the sea and it just goes as far as the eye can see. Like you can imagine billions of bubbles, exactly like 2 billion people. Billions of bubbles, but their weight is bubble. He said, وَلَكِنْ you will be كَغُثَاءِ السَّيْرِ. You will weigh as little as the bubbles on the sea. You'll be a lot, but it will be meaningless. So they said, Ya Rasulullah, we're not understanding. Wait a minute. We would be many, and we would be killed, and we would have the weight of bubbles? Like we would be worthless in weight? They said, Ya Rasulullah, why? What happened to us? The Prophet said, لَأَنَّ أَصَابَكُمُ الْوَهْنِ. The Prophet said, why? They asked the Prophet why. He said, because a disease has inflicted your hearts. Simply, I'm paraphrasing the hadith. They said, what is al-wahn, ya Rasulullah? He said, 2 things that are going to bring me back full circle really quickly. What are the 2 ailments? What are the 2 cancerous elements? 2 infectious diseases that cause a ummah of 2 billion with the Quran preserved amongst them, that they would be the weight of the foam of the sea. What's the 2 diseases? Yes. Greed is good, but it's not what the hadith says. What does the hadith say? Collusion. Delusion is good, but that's not what the hadith says. But these are like meanings we'll get out of it. Actually, I want to talk about that. But what does the hadith say? Like, what's the root cause? Yes. Good. 2 things. That's the first one. The first one is they will love. They'll be infatuated with what? Dunya. And there's a second piece to it. I want to get to it. What's the second piece? What's the second disease? Yeah. And they won't just love dunya. They will hate death. So just everybody say you love to die. Khalas, let's all go home, right? And then, of course, I'm being recorded here. I don't care. We don't care about the Zayos anymore. It's a war of minds and words, and it doesn't matter anymore. But it's a war of hearts and minds, and we don't care. The battle is of words for sure. We're intentionally saying these words. The first word is the first phrase. Let's go to the first phrase. Hubb dunya. Okay, how about we do this? Just so we can get everybody engaged a little bit. I want you to just pair up in 2s. Okay, pair up in 2s. And I'm really looking for like a deep meaning. What about dunya's love of dunya would make an ummah of 2 billion? Look, I'm not looking for I don't know how Badawi runs this show. May Allah bless him. I ain't looking for like Sunday. This is not a Sunday school. This is not Islamic school. Okay? You tell me, you have to pray. You just have to believe in Allah. Like, I'm not looking for an answer like that. I don't know. I try to push back a little bit. Sorry for the voice. You guys don't sound like that. At least some of you. I want a really deep meaning of what what would be cancerous that would inflict an ummah of 2 billion to the point that love of dunya, like what does love of dunya mean that it can be so cancerous to make 2 billion people seem insignificant? That's the question. What is it about love of dunya that would make 2 billion people insignificant in weight? Talk to up here, like pair up into twos. And I'm going to just try to see, like, I'm looking for like the deepest answer. So go ahead, take 2 minutes and answer that question. How's it going?
It's good, Hamid. People are loving it. It's 12:09. What time did we start? 11:25? Did you set an alarm? Because I know you've been doing that.
I'm looking at my phone. 12:10. I'm going to take 20 minutes from the class.
And then Q&A.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap up, debrief, wrap up, and then last point, fourth point, and then we'll do Q&A.
For Q&A, can you just do one side?
Yeah, sure. No problem.
As soon as it's done, just let me know. Do some announcements.
Okay, no problem. I heard Staten Island's IQ is super high, so you guys should be able to do this quick, right? Well, honestly, I've heard the aks, but I'm just gassing y'all up a little bit. All right? It's not? Okay. Try to do it quick. Tell me, what is so cancerous about love of dunya that would make 2 billion people so inept, unable? What does that mean? What does that hadith mean? All right, take 1 more minute. Take 1 more minute to reflect, and I'm going to ask y'all to give me an answer. All right. If everybody's leaving, by the way, we're gonna finish in literally 20 minutes, like 19 minutes. I promise. 12:30, we're done. So if you gotta go, like if you can hang out for like 15 more minutes, inshallah, we're gonna wrap up. All right. I don't. Nobody even talked about it, right? Too deep. Y'all are joking around too much. But maybe we got a good answer. What in your reflection? So I'll reset everybody. 2 things that make the ummah have wahn. The Prophet said wahn would make us weightless. Wahn, he said, is 2 things. This absolute love of dunya and this hate of death. Just so we don't all get arrested, I'm going to explain the hate of death part. I don't want y'all reflecting on that. But what about love of dunya? What about love of dunya would make 2 billion people, 2 billion believers, Muslims, muttaqeen, muslihin, mu'mineen, what would make them so inept? So what's the reflection? Yes? Money. Okay. Well, okay. No, it's okay. Sorry. Well, because it's a simple answer that I'm going to push back. Yeah, everybody's after money. Okay. Do we, I'll ask you something. Do we need money? No, hold on a second. Oh, you can't do that, bro. I'm not Bedawi, like I said. I don't know, may Allah bless Bedawi. No shots. I love Bedawi. Money. Okay, money. I tell you money. Do we need money to become... So you tell me 2 billion people don't need money to have influence in the world? They need money. So I'm going to push back on that. Oh, no. Astaghfirullah al-Azim, bro. Just hold on. I'm down to take shots like that, but not yet. Just give me a second. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'll come back to you. Let me go to sister side. Sorry, my bad. Let me go. I want to go back and forth. All right, so he said money. That's a Staten Island answer. Can I get a New Jersey answer? I'm sorry. Go ahead, yeah. Go ahead. Okay, so she's saying being obsessed with needing to have things. Kind of like hyper materialism. I need to have a car, I need to have a house, I need to have fame. Like this obsession of need. I like that. That's a good answer. Definitely, rising up. Good answer. Just take some different hands. Go ahead, Akhi. Being divided, being so divided Okay, but how does love of dunya make us divided? Okay. Okay, so you're saying love of dunya divides us? That's your premise is, okay, oh, mashallah. He's got some groupies in the house over here. Mashallah. All right. I said, from Brooklyn. Okay. I'm from Brooklyn too, so no problem. Yeah, we always roll with the crew. That usually runs away when the fight starts. So, no offense to Brooklyn. So he's saying, no, it's a good point. It's a good point. He's saying we're divided, like loving dunya divides us, probably spiritually and physically. I think that's a good answer. I like that answer. Sister, right there. Okay, y'all are really excited to get to the loving death part. So I'm with you, but what about loving dunya is the cancerous element? Like the Prophet simply said they love dunya. What is so cancerous about that? Like what is the cancerous part of that makes 2 billion inept? Yes. Okay, so it's not just materialism, but it's the attachment and the love of it. Okay, good. Okay, good answer. I'll take one more, just so we don't spend all night. I like wavy hands that are really energetic to speak. Let's go with the brother in the back. Selfishness. Okay, what do you mean by that? Nobody ever wants, they just want the talking point. Dude, this is not like CNN and it's not 30-second sound bites. Like, you got to tell me, I'm going to ask you, what do you mean by selfishness? So nice term. I don't give stickers. Maybe I would in Islamic school. But tell me what that means. Go ahead, raise your voice. Okay. Go ahead. But how is the ummah, how is what the Prophet said, hubb dunya? You said it's selfishness, right? I said, what is the part about hubb dunya that makes us so weak? You said it's selfishness. I didn't understand the Israel example, but how is the ummah how is selfishness causing us to, give me the connection, please, one more time. Oh my God. No, you can't do that. No, you cannot do that. That's a failed grade. I'll move on to the last one from the sisters, because sisters, y'all are holding it down, mashallah. I guess the IQ is there's a barrier of gender when it comes to IQ. Sister, right, go ahead, sister. Guys, give me a second. I'll repeat what she's saying. Okay. Okay. Okay, good. Very good. Very good. Excellent. I like that. Great answer. She said we become so obsessive about collecting and having more, like hoarding, and just wanting more of dunya, more. And that never-ending thing makes us weak because you're always chasing the dunya, essentially. I'm putting words in your mouth now. You're always, like the goal is the dunya. Like the goal is the 401k, the goal is the yacht, the goal is something else, and it's just something so materialistic. Right? Okay, good. I like that. Very good. Khalas. Good answer. Sheikh. Go ahead, Sheikh. Okay, very good. So, that's a very good answer. I like that. That's very good. So he took it a step further. That's the Staten Island group. My bad if like groupies is a bad word. Like his crew. It's like the crew. I'm gonna. Y'all are very smart. I'm sure. I want to just unpack what he said. So he said, by the way, let's just combine everything. The love of money, the obsessive love of money, let's say, chasing money, with the obsessive love of materialism, with the obsession of kind of always wanting that fame and that fortune. You're so obsessed in doing it, and it causes us to be divided. But I like his point that leads to the division. Like, it causes us to fight one another so that the point that we are so divided, like we can't even do anything together, right? And they all, of course, linked. Like, everything is the correct answer. Even the brother in the back, selfish, I made fun of, right? All of them are right answers. Those are all right answers. Because love of dunya really literally means all of the above. Anything that causes us to be so infatuated with this life, right? That's all it means. So much so that, to the Sheikh's point, that it causes us to want to destroy each other over it. So the Prophet in another hadith said, I'm not fearful that you're in poverty. I'm fearful that you will be obsessed over wealth and money. So you will fight each other and you'll chase it and it will destroy you like it destroyed people before you. Like it makes sense, right? It comes together. So the Prophet said all of the things that he said, love of dunya. So that's the first cancerous element. The second one, really quickly, naturally when you're so obsessed in this dunya, there is a natural hate for what? Yeah, look, nobody likes to die. Anybody want to die? It's not the natural answer. It's not the natural answer. Let's not get started. You guys just had the building open. Let's not get it shut down tomorrow. So, Kirahat al-Maut, in my opinion, is not about hating death. Aisha radiallahu anha, she simply told the Prophet ﷺ, we all hate death. It's a natural piece of every human, every person alive, that they hate death. That's normal. What really is the deeper meaning here is that they no longer, in my opinion, they're so unready for the responsibility of being the governors. Allah will hold us accountable not for being abd on the Day of Judgment. I want to reframe the mindset. Allah will hold us accountable for being the Khalifa on earth on the Day of Judgment. Everybody thinks like, hey, I'm just trying to fast, trying to pray, do my salah. I have no sins. Alhamdulillah. Allah will send me into Jannah. That's not the wiring. The wiring is there's an expectation of what you become. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. And you know when there's high standards, when somebody has high standards, they have high accountability to themselves and others. High standards, high measures of success require high levels of accountability. On the Day of Judgment, Allah will not judge the ummah of Muhammad ﷺ like every other ummah. Let's start there. Khayra ummah does not get judged like every other ummah. And on top of that, Khayr Rasul, the greatest messenger to ever come, that we follow, it's not just, by the way, you're judged like everybody other human. The standard for the Ummah Muhammad ﷺ is inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. And I didn't send them any guidance. I sent them huda linnas wa bayyinatin min al-huda wal furqan. I sent them the greatest guidance. So the accountability will be super high. And so, in my opinion, they're afraid of that accountability. Like we're afraid, why would I be afraid of death? If I'm a good person and I did my salah and I came to MAS Staten Island all the time and I sat and listened to all of Sheikh Badawi's talks and I went to my school and I had my kids and I did it all, like I did everything. I'm a good person. I'm not afraid to die. But it's really to the accountability of not what we think are the goals, it's what Allah expects the goals to be. Allah Azza wa Jalla expects that we are the governors over the earth. Allah expects that we transform the earth. That's the expectation. So in my opinion, Kirahat al-Maut means they hate for the accountability of what they didn't do in this world. So they're obsessed over all the stuff in the dunya, and they hate that they didn't change the dunya the way they were supposed to, so they hate to meet Allah and say, oh my God, 15,000 kids died, Ya Allah. Do we think the 2 billion, I don't want to shame anybody. Do y'all think Allah's not going to ask us about 40,000 people being slaughtered and nobody doing anything about it? Wallahi, every single one of us, not to shame, every single one of us will be asked what we did for Gaza. Every single believer that's alive seeing it will be asked by Allah on the Day of Judgment what we did for Gaza. No doubt about it. Because Allah didn't send me to be a abd. Just pray and worship and do Ramadan and die. Allah sent me, inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. It's a different accountability. So Allah will ask me, what did you do? And He will ask you, what did you do? And every one of us has to, well, now I'm afraid of death. Now, man, I don't want to die now. Now, I haven't done much. I haven't done anything. I've actually been so distracted. I've been so deluded. I've been so, I don't know, I got caught up in, Rami, I got new rims on my car, bro. I've been trying to upgrade my house, brother. I've been trying to get my kids through college. I've been trying to raise my children. I've been just trying to be a good hijabi on campus. Why would I be why are you holding me to that account? That's why we're afraid of dying. We're afraid of dying because we didn't do. And we didn't do, you're afraid to meet the one that will hold you accountable for what we didn't do. The mindset needs to shift. So I said it's a framing problem. We need to understand our purpose. We need to understand the glory of our history. And we need to understand why the downfall. It's very simple. It's black and white. This Ramadan is like a reorientation to that. I said there's 4 parts, right? I mentioned each of the 3. But let me give you all the good news. Because the good news is the 4th part. The 4th part is Allah doesn't care about if we, let me try to frame this right. Allah does not care about the success. He cares about the effort. Jazakallah khair, akhi. Allah only cares. Allah does not judge, did you free Palestine? That's not what we go to Allah accountable for on the Day of Judgment. My job is not to go to Allah on the Day of Judgment and say, I didn't free Palestine. My job is to say, Ya Allah, we moved not just freeing Palestine, but freeing the ummah and reuniting the glory and bringing back the glory of the ummah one step. That's what my generation did. We lived and we died to move the ummah one step. Next generation comes, one step. Generation after that, one step. Our job is not the ultimate banners, and it's not my job. We can envision that. We can hope for that. My job is, I did my part on earth to transform everything around me. The ummah in the east and the ummah in the west. This is an ummah. The United States is an ummah. The Muslim community growing in I believe the Muslim community in the U.S. more likely to bring the ummah forward one step than the ummah in the east, in my opinion. With the amount of freedom of dawah, with these massive institutions, we can now, it's pretty sick, but you can ask AI to give you manuscripts of hadith that people used to travel for months on a donkey to get one sentence. Like you just get it just buzzed out for you. It's insane the opportunities Allah Azza wa Jal gave us. So it's like our job to say, the good point is, what the Prophet ﷺ said at the end of times is that there is going to come a generation, at the end of time, there will be a generation that comes that is the pioneer of moving the ummah in the right direction. The Prophet ﷺ, I'll end with this. He says at the end of times, there will be a generation. They have an example. There's a certain characteristic of this generation. He says, alayhi salatu wassalam, لا يضرهم من خذلهم. They will not be moved by those that make them afraid. They won't be afraid of people that say bad words, that threaten them, that accuse them. They won't be afraid that people that are treasonous or hypocrites or cowards, they're not afraid. They're not afraid when all the people seem to be gathering against them. They're not afraid. There's an ummah, there's a ta'ifah at the end of time that will come. That they're not afraid of all the surrounding conspiracy theorists, or conspirers is the word, around them. لا يضرهم من خذلهم. They're not afraid of all of them. They will, as the Prophet said, they'll be steadfast on faith. Again, they're governors that understand the guidance. And they will be, as the Prophet said, they will be constantly fighting for the advancement and the freedom, not just of the ummah, by the way, of the entire world. bringing Islam and the glory of Islam to the entire world. So much so, as the Prophet said, we all know, that Islam, I think Islam is, by the way, Little John accepted Islam today. I don't know if anybody saw that on Twitter. People are, guys, more white, I don't want to, I'm going to do it for the sisters, but I'll do it for the brothers. I guarantee you, more white suburb girls on TikTok have been reading the Quran than maybe more me and you the past 6 months. More people have been moved and flooding, running to guidance than Muslims that have been guided for years and years. It's this, I mean, of course, you know, Sean King, Little John, all like you see this flood. People we know, and honestly, you guys talk to some revert, like people you don't even know. People are coming in waves to Islam. The Prophet said at the end of time, this ummah, this generation, this group, they will be not afraid of anything that's happening around them, and they will spread the light. So much so that the light of Islam will spread into every single space, nook and cranny of the earth. That's what the Prophet promised. So the glory days are coming. You just have to be willing to be the generation that moves one step forward. Of course, rewind it all. Understand our purpose. I'm the governor seeking guidance to transform the earth. I have to have the right framing and purpose. Second, I got to understand the amazing history, not just of my ummah, but even of myself, my family. What all the great things. I mean, my parents are Palestinian refugees. I barely know anything about what happened to my grandparents. You rarely ask. Now I ask. Like, man, what happened? What happened in 48? What happened in 30s? What happened in why are we where we were? Like, it's important for you to know your identity, know your history. It's important for you to know more about yourself than anybody else. That's a part of your trajectory of bringing the ummah up. The downfall. The Prophet was very clear. Look, dunya, don't be obsessed over it. Look, dunya, and I want to say this very quickly. We own and possess and control dunya, and we prepare ourselves for the account of the akhirah. It's the only way you eliminate the cancer. What's the chemotherapy for the cancer of when? That we say, I am not trying to go after materialism. I am trying to go after power, influence. I'm trying to bring good to the earth. I'm okay with good money. The Prophet said halal money is really good. نعم المال الصالح للرجل الصالح. Mad money is amazing for an amazing believer. So money is not a problem as long as you know how to control it. As long as you know how to put it and move it and shake it and do what you need to do with it as a governor. It's very important. And then you're going to be held accountable for it. And then finally, we're going to be that generation that moves us. Not, inshallah, I know the chant, shout out to within our lifetime. I know the chant is from the river to the sea, we'll see Palestine free within our lifetime. If it's not within our lifetime, I better make sure our generation and our collective lifetimes moves it one step forward, not one step back. That's the goal. One step forward towards a free Palestine, one step forward towards a free ummah, because the entire ummah needs to be freed, and one step closer to glory and victory for the Muslim world. I think that's the intention that we should have. That, in my opinion, is the sacred path of guidance for the activist. Those 4 key elements. I know we're a little bit over time, right? We're right at 32. If you gotta go, you gotta go. I'm sure it's late. I'm sure it's like you're tired. You may be tired. There's refreshments, alhamdulillah. All right, good. Some dunyawi stuff to hopefully want you to. No, refreshments is good. We'll take some questions. I want to answer. Let's maybe take 4 questions, 2 on each side. I know it's a rant. I apologize for kind of the long rant, but I hope it was some wisdom to kind of give us hope for the future. Yes, Akhi, first question. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Within our lifetime. Oh, for the inshallah ta'ala. Of course. I agree. You mean physically, Akhi? You mean physically? Mentally, physically, everything. 100%. Beautifully said. By the way, really quickly, I believe the Khalifa is strong physically because Allah created us that way. And I believe guidance makes us mentally, emotionally, and spiritually strong. So when they all come together, it should be a transformer. I agree 100%. And inshallah ta'ala, within our lifetime, absolutely. That's the vision. Great question. Okay, question on this side. Sisters, any questions? Yes? What's the first step for us to start? Good question. I didn't even answer that. I was completely impractical. Today, it's okay. Imam Tom will be much more practical next week, right? Imam Tom. Good. I want it to be a little bit more theoretical today. I'm going to be on the 25th night. I promise to be very practical. Some practical things. How can I be a governor in the earth? How can I govern my life and govern everything around me to please Allah? I think that's the first thing to focus on. Of course, there's spheres of influence. You've got to start with yourself, sure. You got to start with your family, sure. But we never sometimes get past that point. My community, my society, my job, my work. I mean, people are looking for guidance. And most of the time, it's the Muslims holding it back. I think if you're really going to be a transformer, you lean into who you are, your identity, your purpose, why you exist, and you bring the change to your company, to your business, to your family, to your parts of your family that don't practice. We're going to force them to come to the masjid. We're going to force them to pray. We're going to force them to give zakah to Gaza this year because they never give charity. Like there's things that Allah put us all engineered that we're all in places where we have responsibility to govern. So you've got to start there. You got to start with yourself, everything around you, whatever that is, your business, your career, your job, and you've got to bring Allah's light to it. Bring Allah's goodness to it, Allah's justice, Allah's values, Allah's principles, the Quranic messaging, the Quranic framing. People are looking for the guidance. So it's our job just to, I would say practically, just bring it to people, right? I think that's the most important thing. Wallahu alam. Good question. On this side, brother, is a question. Any question? Yes. Yeah, good question. So I think arrogance is bad, but I think having pride and ego it can be a healthy, good thing. They used to say Umar radiallahu anhu. He was extremely persistent on pride. He was a very prideful man. So anytime he saw anybody doing something, the famous story. One day he saw a group of young men walking around with their heads down, and he smacked each one of them with a stick. And he said, "Why are you walking around with your heads down?" They said, "We're just trying to be not prideful and not arrogant. Just trying to be just humble servants of Allah on earth." He said, and of course he reprimanded him. And he said, "I knew a man who was more sincere and less prideful and arrogant than you. But he would always walk, and of course Umar, but walk on the earth with this dignified, prideful way." I actually think we need pride. Not the bad pride, but we need to be more proud, more prideful of being Muslims, of being who we are. I think for the Palestinians in the room, I think it's very important. I think Palestinians need to by the way, sometimes I kind of grew up with this for the Jordanian Palestinians, right? It's like, oh, you're Jordanian. Like you've lost it. I think Palestinians need to be Palestinian. The whole point is that we don't exist. The whole message is that they're eradicating our entire identity and being. Like you've got to be like, no, by the way, I'm Palestinian. And you say it with a little bit of pride. So what? I think the mindset, and again, it's not a you guys saw what happened in New York City's train station the other day, the brother that took down the guy who was about to shoot. It went viral, right? I think that brother was prideful in that moment. He wasn't cowering. He wasn't afraid. He stood up and he took care of somebody that was about to, he just took care of the dude. I think we need some pride. I think pride is a good thing. Maybe it's a longer lecture. Maybe better we can do it. It's like, hey, what is good pride and what is bad pride? Because I think we always demonize pride, and I would say we shouldn't do that, in my opinion. Arrogance is another thing, though. Good question. On this side, last question on the sister side. Any questions? Brother side, any questions? Go ahead, Akhi, last question. Yeah. Well, wallahi, in my opinion, everybody starts power influence in making moves wherever they're at in life. Like, I've given like khutbahs on this before, and I actually, not that, I'm not just saying, I'm not trying to say we should be like Zionists, but the Zionist ideology had a movement and a mission, and it was really centered around power and influence. I think if Muslims, and I think there's a prophetic model. The Prophet ﷺ went after pride and influence. I'm sorry, power and influence. The Prophet ﷺ focused a lot of his da'wah, actually, for those that don't know, and sometimes Allah would reprimand him, but he actually focused a lot on the people that had power and influence. And the people that had power and influence would eventually become, in Islam, people that had power and influence. So power and influence is very important. Long lecture. I'd love to give it. I'd love for people to more speak about it. I don't think enough khatibs or sheikhs even speak about power and influence, because I think it's very important. There's an Islamic way of doing it, but I think naturally, simply, what do you do for, are you in school? What are you studying? Okay, what are you doing with health science? I love your answers, bro. What do you want to do with health science? What do you want to do in the space? Oh, okay, okay. No, it's good. It's okay. No, honestly, no. I know they're laughing. Forget them. I appreciate the honesty and the vulnerability, because a lot of times we don't set up young people to be like success is a loaded word. No. I'm even not even mentally, physically outside of that. Just have power influence in their lives, in their careers. What I was gonna say is like, hey, I want to become a doctor. I would say, man, run the hospital. That's my goal. If you're like, I own a business. No, I see this a lot, especially y'all that are like, if you have a business, it's like, man, alhamdulillah, business is good. Khalas. It's not like, no. I don't want to just own. I don't want to just own. I don't want to just become a burger spot. I want to become a burger franchise. You know that shift in mindset is like, no, I just don't stop wanting my power and influence to continue. Of course, in halal, it's halal burgers, right? Okay, so it's like, it's halal. But you've got to want, what I'm trying to say is like, look, you've got to be willing to make moves that bring you power and influence, whatever that is. And that's a longer lecture I could talk about. But first, it starts by figuring out what you want to do. That's a first step, right? What do I want to do with my life? And then you go after it and try to attain some kind of high-level power and influence. Barakallahu feekum, jazakallahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.